Good evening and welcome to another edition of the McGraw Report. I'm Harry McGraw, your host, and today we have another exciting guest on our show from the Ford Motor Company. Mr. Austin Curry is here, one of the engineers from Ford and one of the participants in the Men of Courage program here on the McGraw Report. We're going to talk today about how our young people are becoming Black history makers here in the last Monday of Black History Month. We want to highlight some of our Black history makers, and Austin right here is one of our young Black history makers, and we want to talk to you, Chicago, about some of the exciting things that are going on with Austin and the Men of Courage program. So don't forget, give us a call at 312-738-1060. Now, first of all, I want to say welcome to the show, Austin. It's a pleasure to have you here. And, Austin has been traveling around a lot in his young age. This guy's been from D.C., South Carolina, back through Detroit, and now he's here in Chicago helping out with some of our challenges with our young men through the Men of Courage program. And Ford is one of the supporters of this program, and we're excited to have Austin here talking about this. So I want to introduce it by showing you guys a little clip of what it's all about, and then we're going to talk to Austin. So just hold tight right there.
Judged based how I look and where I'm from.
I had a mother that was on drugs and a father that was absent. I ended up going through a number of foster homes.
So no matter what I do, I'm just gonna end up dead or in jail.
I've been blind in my left eye.
None of the men wanted to coach our teams.
I was being kicked out for the same reason. No one tried to reach me.
Until one day I was in the store minding my own business, and this airline pilot walks up to me and says, "Hey son, have you ever thought about becoming a pilot?" My response to him was, "I don't think I'm smart enough to fly an airplane." Think about that.
One man could change the world. That one man could change the world.
Storytelling is where it all began, but we have given up so much of who we are because we've allowed other people to tell our stories.
There's a big disconnect between who I know we are as African-American men and who everyone else says we are.
Even though we don't all necessarily know each other, we do know each other because we have these shared experiences.
Now it's about moving forward and where we want the narrative of Black men, African-American men to go.
We can do this.
Challenges are inevitable. Being defeated is optional.
According to the status quo, I'm not supposed to be standing here. And I think all of us should buck the system and say, we are supposed to be here.
He looks like the angry Black guy that Sean was talking about earlier today, right? But Barrington was actually the youngest man to ever fly the world at the age of 23.
We want people, we need people to understand that we are great. That's part of our narrative. We know that. Everyone doesn't know that.
This is something that's more important than everything. It's how we portray it and how we can progress and how we can learn from each other.
Yeah, I think we really got a chance to connect.
We can't just sit there and not speak up for our community and what we believe in. We can be CEOs, and we've done it for a number of years. So that's the real story right now that's not being told.
We have to take advantage of technology, otherwise we're just going to be spinning our wheels.
Mark Zuckerberg has made more money than every NBA player combined. That is our platform. That is what we can own.
One man could change the world. That one man could change the world.
That was the introductory video for the Men of Courage program that launched here in Chicago nationally right on Martin Luther King Day back in January. And that is some really exciting stuff, Austin. I I really think this is the right direction for us to go in. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I do. It was just really an honor to participate. And I'm actually an engineer with the company, so it felt just very positive and a big morale boost as far as being within that organization to be a part of it.
And not only being a part of the organization itself, but listen to some of the stories of some of those young men having those testimonials. I think that's just really powerful stuff. And I think that when you bring it back to the grassroots here in Chicago, you're going to hear a lot more of that. And since you got involved, what is the target for the Chicago location in particular, as far as the starting point, where you want to go?
Sure. So as the video kind of illustrated, the first step is changing the narrative of the black man in Chicago and also in the U.S. in general. And you can't really have such a program in Chicago without addressing the violence and the challenges the community faces. So the major outcome or goal is just the creation of a framework which brings together the leaders, the influential, the celebrities within our ranks being the ranks of black men, and getting those people in a room to problem solve and to share resources towards fixing these issues. And that's what we had a chance to do on MLK Day.
Yeah, and you know, Austin, a lot of that happens here in Chicago, but I think we need to, kind of shy away from the cameras a little bit and get behind closed doors and really talk seriously about how we can attack these issues systemically. It might just start with one or two kids and then take off from there, but we got to have some kind of strategy to deal with this. Austin is here from the Ford Motor Company. Austin Curry is our guest on the McGraw Report. Give him a call, 312-738-1060. You hear a lot about the violence. You hear about black men, the incarceration rate, and things like that. But we're here today to talk about solutions, and the Men of Courage program is a major solution that is being rolled out all across the country for black men who have courage and men who really want to stand up. So if you're one of those guys that you're sitting around and you're thinking, man, what could I do? Austin Curry's here to tell you what you can do. Give him a call, 312-738-1060. Now, Austin, I want to ask you a question. This is a relatively new program, right? So when you got involved, what did you expect to do being such a young kid with a bright career, being a new leader, a millennial out here? What did you plan on doing?
Sure. So coming in, I didn't have a huge expectation because I didn't 100% know what I was walking into. I was honored to be invited and excited to kind of commingle with this level of brother, but I didn't know what I was going to get. I knew that I was passionate about giving back, about creating change, and I had found myself newly in a position to do so. So I walked in open-minded with the goal of networking and just building more connections to kind of continue doing some of the work that I've started doing in the past few years toward building my own communities.
So, it can start, one block at a time, one person at a time to get the snowball rolling. It doesn't take a whole lot to get things going. And this program, Men of Courage, it's on the East Coast, right? It's in Baltimore, and it was originated in Detroit by the Mayor Bing and some of the supporters in Detroit, right?
Yes. So Mayor Bing was one of the first sponsors of the program, and it was created by the Ford Fund, which is our community engagement and charitable giving arm of the Ford Motor Company. And I would also be remiss if I didn't mention that they also launched a program in Atlanta a year ago as well. So we now have Chicago, Detroit, Atlanta, and Baltimore. And the larger goal is to encourage black men the nation over to kind of get together and host these types of meetings and share these resources in similar vein.
Now, Chicago, we talk a lot about solutions to our problems, and this is one of them. Men of Courage is out here. Give them a call. This is Austin Curry, 312-738-1060. You got a caller on the line? Caller, go ahead.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi, my name is Chris Allen. As a young black man in America, what do you say I do? If I want to start something up in my community, how do I, take action and not continue to sit around and talk?
It's a good question. Austin, that's a young man calling in. He feels like he wants to get involved.
Sure. So I was in the same position. The first thing is to look at your passions and and get involved in the community in that regard. So for me, what that looked like was about 3 years ago, I started coaching basketball at a very low-income minority high school in downtown Detroit. And that was my way of giving back for a couple of years. It was something I loved to do, and I could share that passion with kids and just be a role model. We underestimate the power of just being around as a black man that has a job and is loving and cares for his family or just respects other people in general. So I would say look at your passions and find a space in which you can share those passions with some of our youth.
Now, if you want to get involved in Men of Excellence, there is a website that you can look up. And Austin, you want to bring that to him real quick so he won't forget that?
Sure. So if you want to use our framework that we are working with, it's www.menofcourage.com. And there you can have some resources, additional materials, and you can even register a group if you have some other friends or other leaders within your community that want to get together and start working through some solutions.
Right, and we're going to make sure that we put that on our website. We're going to have this link on our Twitter page at McGraw Report. We're also going to have it on Facebook and Instagram. Or if you have any other questions or concerns, you can email me at mcgrawreport@gmail.com, and we'll get some information to you on how to get involved. But that's a very good question. I'm so glad that you asked. And see, that's another component that I think the Men of Courage program will add to the solutions. Because you do have some very intelligent black men out here, young black men like yourself, who are looking to make a dent in some of these issues, even if it's just pulling a few kids off the street. And so there's a lot of opportunity for people to just network, even if you're just coming in, talking to some of the mentors, getting involved with some of the older, successful people, finding out how they did it, and then getting that framework set up for yourself. It's a very, very doable thing. So I just want to get into our little history maker here. This is Austin Curry from the Ford Motor Company, our Black History Person of the Month. And we're celebrating him today and talking about how you can get involved in the Men of Courage program that rolled out nationally at the Martin Luther King celebration in January. We have another caller on the line. Caller, go ahead. Hello, caller.
How you doing, Austin Curry? Got a question regarding the program Men of Courage. I'm a Los Angeles native. Are we going to be seeing any plans to expand this program outside of Chicago anytime soon?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I think that was a national rollout, right?
Yes, so Chicago is our national rollout. So this program Chicago is the fourth city, and the expansion will continue. So while I'm not privy to specific cities and dates, the program is absolutely going to continue expanding.
Yeah, so if you're in LA, what I would encourage you to do is go to the website, www.menofcourage.com, and actively participate by sharing your personal information with them so when it reaches the West Coast, you can get involved. Right now, it's in Baltimore, Chicago, Detroit, and one more place, right?
Also Atlanta.
Atlanta, exactly. So we have 4 states that's involved right now, but there are plans to expand it, and this is going to be a great opportunity for young men, people that have college degrees, people that are concerned about their community, people that have high school diplomas that may just have a trade and want to give back to their community, just young black men in general. Now, I remember, Austin, when I was doing project management on a construction site here in the city, it was very important for me to have, a black bricklayer contractor, a black plumbing contractor, a black security guard company, even a black janitor and porta potty company, just to show those faces, because at the job site there was a little bitty grammar school right there on the corner. And those little black kids would walk past that job site every day. And just being visible, just seeing black men going to work every day, coming in every day, getting in their cars, going to work, doing something constructive, I think it had a big influence.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Similar to what I said with the coaching, just being present and being a productive member of society is a lot more influential than we realize. And that's where the changing the narrative portion of the Men of Courage program comes into play. People are impressionable, especially kids, especially children, and we don't always recognize that, but we need to use that to our advantage.
We absolutely do. Austin Curry is here from the Ford Motor Company. He's our Black History Maker of the Month here on the McGraw Report. Give him a call. We're talking about the Men of Courage program that rolled out nationally on MLK Day, and it's becoming a huge success. It's already in 4 states, and we're looking forward to go nationwide real soon. Give Austin a call at 312-738-1060 if you want to find out more information about it. Now, Austin, I like the framework, Men of Courage, because let's face it, the violence is making people afraid. And you're going to have a little courage to make some change. Now, I'm not saying that people have to go out here and, confront gangbangers with guns or anything like that, but it takes courage to mentor a kid, right? It takes courage to, stand up when you see somebody getting harassed on the L, or even just walking an old lady across the street. It takes courage to do these kind of things. And so it may be a subtle thing, but just like Austin said, being present helps, definitely. Now, what's your future plans, Austin, for your career with the Ford Motor Company as well as working with Men of Courage?
Sure. So within Ford, I am a sheet metal engineer currently, and I mostly do design work on the Ford Explorer and Ford Taurus, which we build here in the South Shore area, and that's what brought me to Chicago. And outside of Ford, I'm recently involved in real estate, and then I also involve myself in nonprofits and community building. So my current passion in that space is technical education, and most recently I started a company that develops STEM programming for low-income minority students, mostly in after-school programs and boys and girls clubs. And Men of Courage is simply allowing me to scale that up. One of the things we saw was that so many of us are already doing the work, but we don't tell anyone about it. We're quiet about the great things we do, and thus we don't get the help from our brothers that would be more than willing to do so. So Men of Courage is a framework that encourages us to share our great stories, share our triumphs, and in doing so, find connections and build on those and really take whatever programming or whatever works we are already in process of doing to the next level.
And I think that's a great strategy. I know there's a couple of people out there that I've dealt with. T.O. Hardiman from Ceasefire is one of them. There's a couple of other brothers that's out there doing some wonderful things. Every now and then I try to touch base with them just to see what that next idea is, how do we evolve. And some of the things that I'm finding right now is we have to dialogue to the younger generation. You know, when you start talking to them in a way that makes sense, I think they'll listen. I think they'll be more responsive. And so we have to be more eager to share the knowledge and the information that we have with some of our young people. People like Austin here that really want to make a difference. And so I'm encouraging you, Chicago, especially some of you young men out here who have probably started to make some moves and not quite sure how to develop it. Let's get involved with this particular program, the Men of Courage program. We need our men to stand up and be men. And that means taking responsibility for your actions, taking responsibility for your children, going to church, you know, being involved in your community. There's a lot of little things that can be done. So we want our men to stand up and be men. And, you know, I had a statement that I saw in that clip that really touched me where he said that, you know, Mark Zuckerberg made more money than all the NBA players combined. I mean, that's really a powerful statement. How did that hit you when you heard it?
Well, it just brings to light the concept that we've been playing the game all wrong. Our children strive for professions which have the lowest success rates of pretty much any industry and are no longer even the most high-paying professions. So the Mark Zuckerberg comment is just really an example of what the industry, what the country and what the world values right now, and the fact that if we don't force ourselves into these tech spaces, we'll be left behind, and we're already behind, so we'll really just be further behind. And that's kind of why I myself choose to focus on technical education and really making sure kids learn these things so they can compete.
Yeah, and it's going to be a global world out here. It's already a global world, and so you're not just competing with the kid across town in you know, Rich South or something like that. You're talking about people all the way in China and some places, Europe, that's coming here for those jobs. So I want to thank you so much, Austin, for coming on the show. This is our history maker of the month, Mr. Austin Curry from Ford Motor Company, and we are so delighted that he was able to come and take time out of his busy schedule to come here. And we're going to stay in touch. The McGraw Foundation really encourages this kind of thing, and we want to see it grow. And so we're going to stay in touch with you, Austin, make sure that if there's anything we can do to help, we'll be there for you. All right?
Thank you, Harry.
I want to thank you, Chicago, for checking us out on the McGraw Report today. Remember now, if you want to see any of this other stuff, you can get me on my Facebook page, or you can hit me up on Twitter or Instagram, or at the McGraw Report at gmail.com. And if you got any questions for Austin, I'll make sure he gets them, because he's going to be running around all over America talking about this fantastic program, and we're excited for him. And so we want to thank you, Chicago, for tuning in to the McGraw Report. Tune in next week where we'll have another exciting guest. This is my man, Mr. Austin Curry. I'm Harry McGraw. And we want to take time to say thank you, Chicago. We'll see you next week on the McGraw Report. And you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Take care.